Okay, so Gauri was saying, don't take anyone seriously.
Yeah.
Sorry, not anyone seriously. Don't
Yourself.
take
Take yourself.
yourself seriously. I don't take anyone. Hi guys, this is Simul Johnny, your host, and thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I'm super happy that all of you are here, and especially on a Sunday because I know that it's your own time, and Lord knows we need this time. So thank you so much for being here. All three of you are women entrepreneurs, and I'm so glad that we're able to do this because I feel that we need a lot many women entrepreneurs, women who are able to make that decision for themselves. I think success, not success, is so secondary. Just to be able to make that decision is such a big deal for women because we're so used to and conditioned to live in a template, that's not even decided by us. So
Right.
so kudos to all of you, and thanks for being such
To
a
you
great
too,
inspiration.
Simple.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You guys have been, handpicked in the way of obviously all the admirable things that I've seen and known about you. Read through you, the way you kind of go about what you do. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to let you guys now take it on from here in terms of introducing yourselves.
All right. I'm Vismaya, and I always start off with a very interesting thing about where I'm from because my middle name is Mysore, and I'm really proud to be part of a tier two city, and that I think sort of has defined who I am. Out of all the roles that I play, I think I enjoy two roles the most at the moment. One of them is obviously playing mother to that little one who's sleeping right there, Kanmani, and the second one is I'm a founder of a marketing agency which places a lot of importance to empathy and kindness, and it's called the Orange Heart. And I'm very, very proud that we just turned two and we have managed to do quite a few incredible things.
Wow,
Lovely.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Well, I just
Okay.
saw Kanmani there.
Yeah, she just
See,
wanted to be part of this. Maybe she's taking
yes,
inspiration to
all
be the next
girls.
woman entrepreneur.
Absolutely. All part to you, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Gauri, why don't you go ahead?
Of course. Okay, okay. Hi guys, I'm Gauri. I am a 26-year-old founder. I always say my age because I've hid it for the longest time. I started when I was 23, so back then I would always, divulge or like just divert the conversation whenever someone asked. And I think it's important that I own up to how old I am, at least that. And I run Double Space Learning, which is a company based around education. We impart creative skills, heavily invested in writing, and we're trying to reform, the youth of India to be able to represent themselves better, especially, I think, younger girls, because they're always so afraid to speak and write and put themselves out there and take space. So that's basically what we've been up to. We also turned to recently in March.
Ah,
So yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. But yes, that's me.
Awesome.
lovely, Gauri.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Bejnath, and I am the CEO and co-founder of an affordable luxury leather accessories brand called Biledo. And what we basically do is we create, pieces of art that you can cherish forever, and that is something that I um, have always felt. Leather has been my forte always. I was in New Delhi. I was studying leather there, and one thing and one connotation that leather always has towards itself is being drab, dull, maybe brown. Sometimes you can delve into navy, but like that's about it. So what I wanted to break that sort of um, you know rule for leather, and secondly also positioning it as a sustainable product, because it's a piece that that gets passed on from one to the other, and it's something that only gets better with time. So that's what we're doing.
That's
That's so
lovely,
cool.
Sarah. That's lovely. So, running with the biological clock, that's such a comfortable and secure way of going about things. So, what made you guys think that? And I'm sure that it would not have been like one day you wake up and like I want to start a business. It's just growing in your head for some time, and then you eventually take that step. So, what is it that made you guys think of, business, becoming a businesswoman? Let me keep saying it so that, they hear it. What made you guys think of becoming that, and starting on that journey?
Okay, let me go then. Symbol, I'm so glad that you're emphasizing on that particular word, right? Businesswoman, because fortunately, unfortunately, there are so many connotations, and most of them are slightly on the negative side, which has this meaning that you are probably cutthroat, and you are probably somebody who just means business, is very transactional in the way you approach work. And believe you me, it took me a long time to accept that I was a businesswoman. I, for the longest time, kept using other synonyms. I was like, I own a company. I am an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Not once did it come voluntarily that I was a businesswoman. And I think it took me a while to accept it, right? So, how did this entire thing sort of start off? I was burnt out after my stints with multiple agencies, burnt out to an extent where I felt like my self worth had taken a beating and I did not know who I was, what I wanted to do. So I thought I'd take a break. And that led me to freelancing, similar to where you're at right now, which exposed me to a whole bunch of things that I was actually capable of doing, but was never sort of given an opportunity to do in my previous roles for whatever reasons, right? So then, when you're exploring different aspects to your own personality, and then you also realize that there are three, four different um, interests of yours, but you want to club them all together and bring them under one umbrella, how do you do it? And that was for me clubbing my love for teaching, love for mentoring, love for producing something new, creativity, and also being able to give back to people who are actually working very hard, right? And that sweet spot sort of came somewhere where I said, let this be a space where we take on newbies, we take on people who don't have the 5 years, 6 years of experience, because those are the ones who are actually going to be able to contribute. Let me make this almost like a finishing school of sorts, where people have enough time and space to learn and nurture, right? And it just becomes that much more important, because I don't believe in the philosophy of throwing someone to the deep end of the pool and asking them to swim. I believe that they need to be held, they need to be very gently let into the pool. So that's how that started. And of course, I had come across multiple small businesses during my stint as a freelancer. They couldn't afford big monies to your agencies. But they were still doing some incredible work, but they didn't really have the right direction that they were progressing in. So that speed versus that direction in which they had to progress versus just picking up speed and running, that was a little bit of a dissonance that I always saw in a lot of founders. So I said, okay, let's start this space small and we'll see how it proceeds. The transformation that has happened in these 2 years, I didn't foresee it when I started off as a businesswoman, right?
Mm.
I dreamt really small. I thought this is going to be a small little space where we provide stability to anybody who sort of joins, take on small kitty projects. That was what it was. Never really thought that we would get to work with some of the biggest brands in the country and some of the biggest and most wonderful names in the industries that we are a part of. So yeah, I think that's that. It was like a natural shift for me. It was not abrupt. But my mother tells me that ever since you were little, you always said that you want to work for yourself. You never really said that you want to work with that company or with that person. Though in
Right.
the middle, I was like Ogilvy and Mather was my dream destination, and I
Yeah,
did work there.
everyone's.
After which I was just like, okay, now that is done. What next?
What
you know?
next?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
That's
that's been my
lovely.
journey.
That's lovely. And I think there was this one quote when, like you said, that you just somehow always know. And then, there was this quote that I saw. Oprah said that her grandmother used to like hang clothes in the, she would wash clothes and hang them. And Oprah said that her grandmother used to say that, watch this and you have to do the same. And she said that I was a very young kid and I would tell myself, no, I'm not like this is not what I meant to do. And that's it, and you don't have the opportunity, you don't have the privilege, but somehow you just always think that, I'm not meant to do this. And you start feeling, and that discomfort grows on you for you to
Yeah.
finally break and do something that you meant to do. That's lovely. What about you, Gauri, Sarah?
Um, I'll go next if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also relate so much to that though. Like I could not say businesswoman. I still can't. I'm struggling with that still. I also don't say CEO ever. I had to make what's it called, peace with the term founder, because when anyone would ask me, I just say like, oh, I am in the education industry and stuff, and then they'd prod from whatever. And I remember like very recently, this is very funny. Some of my friends, right, they were like, I think you should just stop telling boys that you're a CEO founder because they get intimidated.
Yeah,
And it,
that's true. They
yeah,
do.
yeah. And I was like, but they're gonna find out eventually, right? Why hide that fact? But yes, for me, it actually started very abruptly. I started almost like out of college, I think. I came back to India after college in 2019, and I think we started the process in 2020. So before that, I was trying to get involved with the publishing industry. I was trying to interact with people, and for some odd reason, it was my dream to be a writer, to work in the publishing industry in India. And that dream kind of broke, if I'm being very honest, because I got an insight into what publishing is actually like. It's not all flowery, or I think I was just watching
Yeah.
with rose colored glasses. So and then I
Yeah.
thought I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to bring writing skills to India, because that wasn't present when I was in school. So I just said, why not just do plan B right now, and then we'll see about the writing and publishing later in life, maybe. So it started during the pandemic, actually. And I was very, very grateful to meet a lot of nice people actually during the beginning of my journey. I haven't encountered a lot of people who, weren't nice or just weren't polite. I've encountered them later, not in the beginning. So it felt very easy. It felt almost like I was, meant to do this, at the risk of sounding very cliched. But yeah. So then it all just fell into place. We got clients really easily in the beginning. Struggle started later within the industry, but I've met some of the most powerful women, because education as an industry is filled with powerful women, I think. So that made it
Yes.
very easy. They were very accepting. But yeah, that's
That's
basically how it started.
wow.
That's awesome.
That's lovely, Gauri. What about
Yeah.
you, Sarah? We move on to you.
Sure. So, my journey was very, very unexpected, actually. Um, as you said, when you were younger, you used to say you want to be like you want to own your own thing. For me, also, I remember probably just being like, what, 8 or 9, and people would ask me, what do you want to do? And I would be like, I want to be a CEO. I had no idea what that means, what entails of being that, but that's what I used to say. And then they used to say, "What will your business be?" And I used to just be like, "I'm gonna sell samosas on rickshaws." Like I don't know, like I would just say anything, but that was like
Yeah.
it's like a little thing that was in my head, and that's why I hold this badge of honor really proudly, because there are certain things that manifest from your childhood into your
So true.
adulthood, and you don't even realize that you manifested them like that.
So true. So true.
So, for me, the whole probably subconsciously, yes, like I said, in my childhood, I did want to be in this position, but I was basically stuck in the rigmarole of I was working with Damilano, I was their head designer, so I was stuck in that daily work order banao, and just like the whole I mean, it's still there, but it was doing it for someone else, and I had it with my stint there, and it had been a good 2.5 3 years, and I decided to call it quits because it was taking a toll on my physical health, which is something that I feel does happen to a lot of women. So many women have PCOD now because of the stress
Same.
factor. All of us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because of these
Yes.
stress factors and the hormones and the cortisol levels going haywire and all of that. So the doctors advised me that, I think it's time for you to take a little bit of a break and sort of take care of yourself. But I'm sure all of us being us, we can't sit at home. So
Yeah, it's
I
true.
started looking for jobs, and I was just like, now where, what next? Because in the leather industry and bags, it's a very niche, like there's not like 500 jobs waiting for you. So I had my whole processes of applying, etc., etc. There was a time when I was going to Bangalore to Titan to start their bags unit, and I was really looking forward to that. And I think I had my final interview in a week's time, and someone who I'm very grateful for, Mr. Saurabh Nanda, he randomly popped up in my LinkedIn, having no clue of who I am or who he is. He said that I've seen your work, and I think that would you want to like start a brand? And of course, I've been wanting to start a brand. Like my Apple Pencil has my brand's name written on it because I thought of it way before,
Yeah.
but it was just
Wow.
that it was work a little more and then I'll start. So he said, "You want to start a brand?" And I said, "Sure. Let me just think about it. Let me come meet you and let me see what you're doing, and then we'll go ahead." And I, anyways, had my Titan interview, so I was like, "Chalo, let me just go for the meeting." And I went for the meeting. I saw that he's trying to he's trying to build like a house of brands, and the two brands that were prominent there that I saw were both women led. And I think that gave me a little bit of confidence in terms of seeing that he supports also. So then I gave him my pitch, my ideas. He said, "Okay, I'll invest. Let's go ahead and let's start this." And that's just how Bilero was founded and how I suddenly became a CEO out of
Wow.
nowhere.
That's so
Yeah.
lovely, and you so rightly said that certain things that you manifest as a child, or like days
Yeah.
before you even think of actually putting down that that GST registration and all of that.
Exactly.
Um, I think that's such a mm, magical moment to actually feel okay. I have thought about this like since forever. I was
Yes.
not meant to be working for someone else, and you really want to slog your ass, you slog your ass for yourself. It still
Exactly.
makes sense. And as women, I feel that all of us add a different perspective to whatever there is. We don't realize, but so many of the things, the movies, the advertisements, the books have had such a male influence that we don't realize that it comes from a certain point of view. So, in your opinion, all you lovely ladies, you think that do you add a different perspective as a woman to what you bring to the table, or your specific industry or your specific business?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of things, simple. One is, I think, in my opening spiel, I already mentioned that empathy and kindness is something that's extremely, extremely important to me as a person, and also for the industry. I'm sure you're very well aware of the amounts of burnouts and stress-related issues that occur, especially in the advertising and marketing sector. So as an industry, I want us to change the way we look at work, right? And it's one of those spaces where we treat work like it is our be all and end all. It really isn't. It's just a part of our lives. And unless you're able to go out there and live a full life, you cannot bring any creativity into your work. And very seldom people realize this. It's not that you can sit in front of a screen and traverse Google Earth and understand what traveling is all about. It really isn't that. You go out there, you experience things, you come back, you put it into your own words, you make your own creatives. So that is what is really important. And for me, that balance and creating that balance with a very rooted feeling of empathy and kindness is extremely, extremely important. Now, that doesn't mean that we are being very sort of lackadaisical in our attitude when it comes to meeting deadlines and things like that. I think, again, establishing very clear um, processes and systems becomes really important. And I feel women are extremely good with that, I think because look at it historically, even if I have to take a slightly protracted view of it and say, hey, what did women do when the men were out there hunting? They had to hold down the fort. They had to literally do
Absolutely.
everything else. They had their babies to take care of. They had whatever, gardening, whatever it is that they had to do, cooking, gardening, everything else, they had to make sure that that was what it was. And now, when we have an opportunity to bring about a larger change, not just limited to their families or their surroundings and their neighborhoods, but to a larger change, I genuinely believe that women are better poised in making sure that the multiple tasks that we do are actually done in a systematic manner. And to my mind, resilience. We have a special muscle in our bodies where,
So
when it comes
true.
to resilience, right? Like we have to go through so much pain every month, but we come back
So
stronger.
true.
We
Yeah.
just make it a part of our lives. If I have to talk about it physiologically, if I have to talk about it mentally as well, I think we have that bounce back factor is a lot more in women than it is in men. And I'm not saying this just like that, right? There are studies to prove this. In fact,
True.
so many incredible studies have been done about what women bring to the table as leaders versus men and why they seem to have a higher success rate and things like that. So I just think that when you combine all of those things together, along with a copious amount of humility and knowing that there is a certain perspective that you, with your limited lived experience, have been exposed to, and there are so many other things that you have to learn. I think when you combine all of those things, you just get a very well-rounded person who can then bring the same thing into her organization. And
Absolutely.
I've noticed this whenever people have been led by a woman, they emerge as well rounded people. It's not just whether it's a man or a woman or somebody who does not want to conform to a gender. I just believe that if they have their eyes and ears open and if they are actually learning from the woman boss that they have, they come out as well rounded people. And also, one thing that I would want to say is it's also important to be transparent and not put on this brave shield and always be like, no, this is who I am. I'm going to work no matter what. I'm going to kill myself to be presentable and present something to someone. I think that we really need to stop doing because that's something that is counterproductive, and
So
people don't
true.
see you for who you are. People don't see you for your strengths because you're so busy hiding your weaknesses.
And
Thank
also
you.
how you spoke of aggression as a of how women are expected to be aggressive, right? I think our idea of a founder or a boss or a someone at authority has always been a man.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've been taught to be assertive and aggressive and be like, if you don't talk to them like that, they will not
They
take you
won't get it.
seriously.
Yeah.
So if you don't, in a lot of cases I've seen this happen with my friends, that she has made the vendor talk to a guy for the vendor to take her seriously,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm sure all of you have faced that, and especially in the if for you also, Sarah, to get things done from, like, people at the ground level in terms of logistics and operations. uh, I'm sure it's a big task.
It
So
is.
yeah, Gauri, moving on to you.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. I have a very similar perspective on it actually, because the first thing I look at is empathy as well, like within the team and outside the team. And going off of what Vismaya just said, getting clients who treat your team well, right? That's like, I prioritize that so much. We recently turned down a client who was paying us really well, but was so disrespectful to the team, and it's just impossible to work with them. And a lot of times, clients will take that liberty because there's a female founder at the other end, so
Yeah.
they will treat you and your team however they want to, and that's just very annoying because we have a young team. So regardless, we're at a disadvantage with clients a lot of times. And I feel like empathy, for employees, is also very, very important. How they're being treated, and how they, view that experience, because their whole experience of working within a company is going to be shaped by that. And a lot of
so
times I
true.
feel, yeah, I feel when employees don't enjoy working in an environment, it's because they're not being empathized with or taken care of, which is the founder's job always. I will always believe that. So, A, that. And the second thing I feel like I wish to bring and I try to bring is collaboration. So education as an industry, I don't know why, has become very heavily money based, in the sense that everyone wants to, just make the biggest brands in India. And there are a few examples of companies just running after money. And I think education has to have empathy and collaboration within it for
So true.
better impact for students as well, because at the end of the day, you're let's say influencing young minds, right? Like even 12-year-olds, their whole perception of education is being shaped by you. So I feel that is very important. Collaboration is a little difficult to do because the industry is a little competitive sometimes, but we found very, very great collaborators as well. And since we were bootstrapped, like I said, a lot of women in the industry have been very collaborative, and that's helped us push that boundary and just grow as well. But yeah, empathy and collaboration basically inside
But
the
I,
team
I,
outside
I
the team.
think I love the part of collaboration also, Gauri, because I feel that as women, we have had to fight our battles and win them. So men have won their battles with competition, and women have won their
Yeah.
battles with collaboration, right? We
Yes.
built a community because we had to
Together.
fight so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that as women founders, sort of, I've always seen, like, I've met women founders, and suddenly when they know that there's another woman founder in front of them, they'll be like, that I understand you. That there's this, it's like when you pass on sanitary napkins to each other without knowing
Yeah.
who you are, right? You suddenly build that connection, and I think that's why that as women, or people who identify themselves as women, have that, how do I put it, that inherent thing to collaborate over compete when it comes to handling such big tasks that they're confronted with. Moving on to Sarah.
Um, so, as a woman, the opportunities that I put onto the table, I feel, as a woman founder, is that, see, it has its negatives and its positives, but what it is that I think women know how to micromanage. When Vismaya said that you have to get the micros right, that's like we know how to, micromanage. So um, sometimes you get maybe too into the whole role of micromanaging also, and you need to like take a step back and just be like, okay, I need to like let them do their job, that's why I've hired them. But that that perfection that we strive for comes only through that, like we take everything very, like even if it's the smallest thing, we will take it so seriously. We will not like make it look like even if it's like hiring an intern, we will take even that seriously, that we're
Yeah.
getting someone on board. I should be able to talk to them, they should be able to learn from you. So it's like you're looking at every little aspect. Or whether it is, I have laborers working with me, so whether it is that they're getting their tea on time, or whether it's these little things, but it's all of that that builds and creates, beauty. Now, of course, the micromanaging part, but the second thing that I feel as a woman, that is an opportunity for me, is that there's also a lot of uh, men out there that are that have been raised by amazing women, so they are open to and actually more forward and forth in helping you as well,
Mm.
many a times. So I think that is also an opportunity in
Yeah,
itself,
in itself.
and the third thing that, as a woman, for me, is that, and I'm only going to talk positives here, I just don't want to, because there's so many negatives that we can like on a daily basis that I face the bias, so I don't even want to like, let's look at the positives. And the third thing is that, being a younger woman, a lot of people um, may mistake me for being naive. Um,
Mm.
but I think that I use that as an opportunity, and I say, okay, then guide me.
Yeah,
And when someone's looking at you and wanting to guide you, they will never look at you as competition. They'll never look at you as, they'll just look at you as, ki, let me help her to the fullest. So I use
right.
all these opportunities as well. And it may sound opportunistic, but it is that these are the cards that have been dealt to us, and we have to figure out the best way possible to use them.
And
Yeah.
that's where it starts from, right?
Mhm.
You understand that these are the battles I have to fight, and how do I fight it in the best way possible. I think you always walk around in the gray area, but
Totally.
uh, but how do you sort of navigate through that? Um, Having said that, we've spoken about uh, what do we bring to the table, and like you said, Sarah, the details, the fact that a woman would notice things happening in a company that others wouldn't. That okay, maybe these guys are not talking properly. Is there something that I need to take care of? Because that's how, like I said, that we are naturally nurturers and carers. So that's so inherent in us that we keep looking at, okay, is there something that others are missing and I need to look into. Maybe I need not, because I'm a founder, and that's not really not a part of what needs my focus right now, but I will. And I think that's what women do in like friends group also, and like companies also. They'll
And then
know
you're
something is
like
wrong.
frustrated, but because after a point you're just like, why do I care, man? Like, why
Yeah,
do I care?
yeah.
But but you do, and that's just the harsh reality.
That's true, but that's so natural to you. Uh, and I'm going to come to something interesting now, which I think is I'm sure you all have a lot to talk about in terms of the biases that women face in the industry, and so specific to you. And I know that list is endless. I think forget as a founder. I think as a woman, it starts off with so much questions out there, guys. For someone who's watching this and who's hearing this, and for them to understand that this is normal, and for them not to feel that, like when Gauri said that she would hide her age. If someone's maybe like 22 watching this, or 20 watching this, and she has dreams of like starting something of her own, she shouldn't feel that, okay, that should be like a deterrent in terms of where I am.
Right.
So what are the some of the biases that you faced because of the gender that you associate with, or belong to?
Right. So Symbol, I'm from an industry which places a lot of importance on glamour, on
Yeah.
the the
Yeah.
physicality of things, right?
Right.
Um, so there have been times when an idea, a really solid idea, based in strategy, excellently crafted in terms of creativity, has gone on the table and has been approved by a client, and then the reaction is almost like, yeah, because you look a certain way, because you
Yeah.
presented it and
Yeah.
you look a certain way, you speak a
Yeah.
certain way,
Yeah.
you wore your red lipstick to the meeting. What did you expect? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
So
true.
it's you know, the amount of effort that goes into making things look effortless, people don't see it. So
Yeah.
it just comes down to how effortless you're making it seem, and therefore what perceptions do people have and what their takeaways are. Now, I'm not going to go there and fight every person who thinks that I occupy a certain prestigious position because of doing things that are arbitrary and that are not related to my my path to my success. And that's hurtful at times, right? Because you know what you've done, you know the number of hours that you have pulled, you know the kind of trajectory that you had to sort of change and take and run and sit through to be able to reach this position. So it just comes down to a place where you feel that the other person is negating your self-worth, is saying that it's absolutely because of something that is genetic, something that you didn't even have to work so hard for. That's the reason why you're here and you are where you're at. And I completely disagree with that. Um, because I think all of us bring a certain sensibility to the table, and those biases need to be fought. But again, here's where I would say that there is a slight difference in being aggressive versus being assertive, right? So being assertive is where you're drawing your boundaries very clearly and you're being extremely, extremely clear in your communication. You're saying, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And this needs to stop right here. You can't, and yes, your voice is going to quiver the first two, three times you're going to say it, because there's that fear that we're operating from as well, right? Because we've been conditioned to keep quiet. We've been conditioned not to speak up, speak out. So I've had times where I've just said, I'm not going to take this. It's this is going to end here. And very similar to what Gauri said, we've had to fire multiple clients because they were just being absolutely obnoxious. So does it hurt the bottom line? Yes. But is that something that you want to put up with? And after thinking that, okay, let me just change the trajectory from where you were operating out of, and the space that you were operating out of, 100% yes, right? So I think more than the biases that we face because of the physicality, especially in our industry, I think just owning it and saying, yes, this is who I am. But you don't get to make these comments is very important, right? And there's also, I don't know, I'm actually very curious to hear what Sarah and Gauri have to say in their specific industries. But for us, I just feel that there is this wokeness that sort of creeps in, and they're like, hey, but I was just paying you a compliment. But that's a red flag draped as a green flag, which
Exactly,
is just
exactly.
not fair.
I think they make you feel bad for looking pretty and for your and they undervalue your skills. So I think it's a double-edged sword that way.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't care. So basically, you look a certain way, but so I don't care what your skills are,
Yeah.
and and I think after so one of my an intern said this to my boss, and she made like a great, she wrote a great script, and he said, oh, you're so, and she was reciting. So after she's done, he's like, oh, you're so cute. And she's like, don't call me cute. She's like,
Yeah.
that's not what I put like my night, like an all-nighter for. Don't call me cute. And she said it, so everyone went quiet because nobody was expecting this little girl to say that out loud. And I just turned on my mouth, mic, and I said, wow, that's all I said. And I think everyone got what it meant. But that's so cute is not a compliment you give for someone who's presented you some hard-earned work.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's so true. And I think they do think that about women founders, that business women, that that they just get it done because they like bat their eyelid or they smile a little,
Yeah.
and all of that. What about you? What about you girls? How has it been like for you?
I was having this conversation with another female founder at a networking event last year, and she's older, so I was getting some tips from her. I was like, how do I get people to, just take me seriously? I was very frustrated last year, and she was like, oh, it happens to everyone. I used to like dress in baggy clothes and, wear the biggest glasses, even though I don't have like a power or I don't need them, just so that they think I'm older and I'm more serious. And, there's this perception, I don't know how correct it is to say this, but there's this perception that if you're not dressed well, you're going to work well. I don't know why, but there's this
Mm,
perception, and it doesn't like,
Interesting.
I hate it. Yeah, if they think you spent like um if you have like makeup on, for example, right? They think you spend like 1 hour in the morning doing makeup only, and that's your priority, which is completely nuts, because like a man
yeah.
might be dressed well in a suit as well. You could make the same assumption about him, but you don't, right? So
You
that
don't.
happens a
Yeah.
lot. And I think especially because for me, I don't know why this happens. This keeps happening to me, guys. I really don't know why, but every time I approach someone in the industry for a collaboration, like someone who's a big male founder, they always end up wanting to buy me out. Like their first response is, why kitni badi kar logi company? Like someone just, I think, said this to me 2 months ago only. It's like, kitni badi kar logi tum company? Like just sell it to me and we'll make it bigger than you can manage to.
Oh my
And I
God,
was
that's
just livid at it. But I think that also comes because he was much older, and he thought that he could say that to me. But for me, it's always the fact that they think I'm buyable, like they can buy me. Right. One,
Mm.
I remember, this is so funny. One guy, I think it was my second year of starting the company, second month, sorry. And he just said, why don't you like come work with us? We have Italian coffee enough. And I was like, you want me to sell out your coffee? Every time I see Italian coffee somewhere, I get triggered now. I'm like, what is this? But yeah, just them thinking
wow.
that, shock mein kar rahi hai. Like she's not gonna
Yeah,
continue this.
exactly.
So
She's
she's,
not
yeah,
serious. That's
yeah,
also
she's gonna
because
want
they
to sell.
think that once they get married, they'll leave this. So
Yeah,
this is अभी
Mhm.
शौक, अभी अपना passion पूरा कर रही है, तो whatever.
बच्ची को काम करने दो. That's the
How
kind
let
of
her
vibe.
enjoy. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
true. Oh Jesus, that
So
the
yeah, they say this,
condescending.
and they want to buy my employees also. They're so disrespectful sometimes. They're like, "I'll buy your whole team." No, it's
No.
okay. You can work with them still. You come to the office, we'll buy your team. You bring them with you also, and my employees. They're always like, "If you sell us,
Uh,
we'll put it out on LinkedIn." So
yeah.
that's not happening. But yeah, that's within
Wow.
education. That's a huge thing. I think it's because it's gotten very competitive over the years, thanks to a couple of companies. But that happens to me like every quarter, once every quarter that happens to me. And regardless, like I'm trying to like tone down my red lipstick for meetings so that they don't try to buy me for coffee. But
You should wear it extra bright and
I
Yeah.
tell
do
them
now.
this
I'm
is
like, you're gonna
this
expect it.
reflects my work. That's what you should tell them.
Even founders my age, actually, every time I speak with them, right, they're like, I made these mistakes in business, so I don't want you to make them. And I was like, hello, we're the same age. What are you saying? So they do that all the time, and I've learned to joke about it now because that's the only way I think I get
Yeah,
through it. Otherwise, in the
absolutely.
beginning, I was like, "Ye kya ho raha hai? Like, what's up with the men in the industry?" It's like they're so into education, they always want to teach you only, and happens during hiring also, I think, because I'm as a person I speak politely, right? There are very few times I turn assertive unless I need to. I'm like, let the other person be comfortable, especially during hiring interviews. And I remember sometimes what happens a lot, actually, they come in and they just start to teach me. It's like, you should do this for your company. You know what marketing is? Yeah. Sarah's nodding, so I'm sure she's been through it too. They do that all the time. Like, one guy came in for a web dev interview, and he's like, do you know what marketing is? Like, these trailers, these movie trailers you see are marketing. And I was like,
Oh my
man.
God, Jesus
So
Christ.
it's just, I think, all around.
Yeah, it's the know-it-all attitude, and I think that
Yeah.
I think it's not even, it doesn't even come from a certain gender. I think it's directed towards a certain gender more than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's coming from everywhere towards women being like, yeah, like, do you know what you're doing? Okay, tell, just do it. And they think of this as like a summer project that
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
doing, and you just get over in 3
Instagram
months.
page चला रही है बच्ची. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, Instagram page, yeah, exactly, Instagram page, and that's so true. What about you, Sarah?
So, I think bias comes in many ways. As appearance one. So, in the fashion industry, you're expected to look a certain standard. It's just, like you have to, your style needs to speak for you, etc., etc. Now, looking that certain standard is also linked to being that certain weight. Okay,
Mm.
and I have like the number of times where people have just told me, but you should lose a little bit of weight. I'm like, am I telling you what to do? Like, we're
Yeah.
here in a professional, like, can you imagine that that's a conversation at like a conference table where people are talking about your weight? Like,
Wow.
ki you're a designer,
That's
you have to look a certain way, so you should lose a little bit of weight. Okay, that's one, whatever. Like that they feel that they have the right to comment on our bodies. Like, who's giving you
absolutely.
that right? Second is unnecessary ज्ञान. ठीक है,
Mm.
like आप मेरे को बता रहे हो कि मैं अपनी फैक्ट्री कैसे रन करूं जब मैं वहां पे हर रोज बैठती हूँ और आप कभी आए भी नहीं हो. Like, it's just
Exactly. That's so true. That's
so
so true.
unnecessary ज्ञान. And the third thing is कि वो है कि अभी 2-3 साल में तो शादी कर लेगी तो जो है चलने दो, फिर देख लेंगे उसके बाद में जैसे बढ़ाना है या जो भी करना है, all of that. And it's just as opposed to कि उसका IQ क्या है, उसका EQ क्या है, उसके laurels and achievements क्या है, all of that sort of fades away with the appearance and all those tick marks that they want in a woman. And honestly, it's really sad, but like even when I go to work, like if I'm not looking my best, I'm not feeling my best. So
Yeah.
for me it's very internal as opposed to external. Like, if I'm wearing that red
Absolutely.
lipstick, I'm not rocking it to get your approval. I'm doing it so that I feel more confident. And
Absolutely.
but I think everybody just thinks that we as women do everything for the male gaze and whatever. So I think that's just something I've learned to live with, but I know that it's there and I know that it hurts, and we've just conditioned ourselves to sort of being okay with it.
Yeah, that's true. I think you fight it like, like they say that you know which battles to fight. So somewhere you just can't take it, you give it back. One of my friends is, has been applying for jobs and jobs, and the only question they keep asking her is that, are you planning to have a baby?
Baby,
Because
yeah,
that depends a lot on them hiring her. What they don't understand is that the whole role of a mother is about multitasking. And if women are capable of that, then they don't take away from your company, they add to it. And
Yeah.
and I think that narrative has to be told so many times in so many different ways by so many women for it to actually become mainstream. I completely agree. Wait, so matlab, someone told me that, oh, you have such a potential to look hot, if you
yeah,
give
What?
lose more weight. I
yeah.
said,
People will take you more seriously. That's what I've been told.
yeah, even for one of my podcasts, someone said that to me that, you should, what, like, wear certain something, there was a word I'm forgetting, like some clothes, basic. What they meant is like skimpy, to be able to get more, whatever, and likes. And
Attention.
I said that, like, I've spent so much time working on my craft and my,
Yeah.
I'm social as a person, and none of that counts. What counts is that I'm going to, like, put like a cleavage dipping top, and even if I want to, I can, but that's because I want to. It has
Not
nothing to do
because
with the
you
fact that,
asked me to.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's just, like I said, that these are things we also face as women, and
yeah,
obviously our works, since they're a part of our life, they just sort of, we see them more often because that's the part we're dealing with more often. And that's what I think, for women listening to this, they need to understand that you don't have to always fight. You can't fight all of them because it's only going to impact your energy in that way. You fight where you think it's impacting you, like you guys, girls, that you drop the client. I'm sure it's an impact on business,
Yeah.
and business is about money, a lot about money. uh, so it does impact that, but you have to take those decisions, so that's where you draw the line. um,
yeah.
uh, you know uh, that way.
Sorry to
And
cut you. I just wanted to add something, that um, here we were talking about people that are, probably at the same positions as us in different fields, etc., that are commenting on us and saying, I've had like कारीगर से ठीक से कपड़े पहन के आया करिए. Imagine
yeah,
the guts to be able to say
yeah,
that
yeah,
to your.
that's true. Yeah. No, so that's what I'm saying. They will always maintain that stance with a male authority because women are not
Yeah,
considered authorities. They never have.
exactly.
Yeah.
उनकी
They
ऐसी
never
back
have.
सीधी हो जाती है if there's a man walking into the room
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to they will not even look up their
Same,
table.
same. I think I called for one of the business I had initially, thought of doing. I gave that up for whatever reasons, but I had to call like 10 people and they just would not talk to me. They would not. I had to make like my friend, talk to them because they were like artisans. And to be honest, to a certain extent, I understand it has a lot to do with the socio-cultural sort of, upbringing that they come from. But I think that I don't buy that as an excuse. I think
Mhm.
they need to be told, and they need to be told so many times
Correct.
that they understand that this is not okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, how many
Another,
times have we been called sir? So they're
yeah,
making their peace with
so
it by
true.
calling us sir.
Yeah, they always call us the. It's the customer care also. No, I think they do better. Say, I'm ma'am. I always thought I sound like a man. For the longest of time, they just keep calling me sir. I'm like, okay, then
Some,
I'll make
especially in
peace
the
with it.
laborer levels, they think it's a sign of respect कि हम आपको मैम नहीं हम आपको sir कह रहे
Huh.
Sir, keh rahe, wow,
हैं.
wow. So another, okay. So I'll move on to something more important, and I said, which is I think is the best part of this conversation that we're having, is that while we speak of the kind of problems we deal with every day, I think we always have found different anchors that we've set for ourselves.
Yeah.
In terms of making it work. Uh, it could be humans, it could be places, it could be things, it could be money, Vismaya. But
Yeah.
what is that support system that you all have built, and how have you gone about it? Because I think that is going to be the major takeaway for someone listening to this, to understand the importance of what a support system can do for you.
Okay, I'm going to answer this question in two parts, right? First, I have a fabulous band of girls who are my biggest cheerleaders. I think just by virtue of being women, they understand the general shit that we go through and what we have to put up with on a regular basis. You don't have to be a business owner to understand and empathize with a business owner, right?
So true.
So I have some really incredible women, some of whom are business owners. So it's a lot more easy to have those conversations with them. And of course, like you already mentioned, there is money. I think for me personally, what has been the biggest support system is I have
Right.
worked on myself like my life literally depended on it. And I feel like at one point it did. And 2018, I would say, was my turning point. That was the year I'd started freelancing. That was the year that everything was going to shit. And that was the year I started therapy. And then slowly progressed into, of course, like I think I was able to hold myself only and during the pandemic only and only because I had done a certain amount of work on myself before that. I also believe that when you can retrain your brain and reframe certain challenges in your brain, it becomes easier to see solutions. And as a person, I'm built that way. When I look at something, I'm immediately thinking of the solution and not necessarily dwelling on the problem, which is also problematic, by the way, because I don't sit with the problem long enough. But I think that sort of changed a lot of things for me. And of late, I've also found myself being interested in, intrigued by, and investing in spirituality. So that I think has been my anchor. Because see, one thing is for certain, right? I have some really incredible people around me, but if I don't learn how to ground myself without needing to use somebody as a crutch, I'm never going to be able to learn that. And it's not necessary that you're going to find someone to listen to you at every point whenever you're faced with these challenges. Of course, there are enough and more forums. I'm part of Leap Club and part of other groups where women are constantly talking about things, about the challenges they face. So it's great to learn from somebody else, but your flavor of addressing a problem will be very different from somebody else's. Your growth points are going to be different. Your growth pains are going to look different. So being able to understand those things, reflect on them, being able to say, I'm going to pause here and see how this is affecting me, my life right now, and then say, is this the direction that I want to take? I feel that has helped me the most. I know it might sound very sort of philosophical and airy fairy, but I think this is what works for me at this point in my life. And I have found this to be the most effective. If I don't get to journal in the morning, if I don't get to have my peace time every single day, it's not like I wait for one weekend to sort of unload everything. Every single day, I need to remove pockets of time for myself just to be able to center myself. Because what we don't realize is a lot of people are depending on us to reflect our energies as founders and as
That's
leaders.
true.
Um,
That's true.
so I think it's not specific to women also. I genuinely believe that
Yeah.
everybody should be able to work on themselves just to leave a place better than they found it. I think it's very
So
important to do
true.
that.
So
So,
true.
yeah.
So true. Uh, what about you, Gauri, Sarah?
I've been so deep in thought. I'm so sorry. I have to, yes.
It's
But
big
yes,
questions, right?
yeah. And I agree with the thing Vismaya was saying about having like a good friend group, right? But
Yeah,
I have found friends that entrepreneurship is more lonely than I thought it would be. For some reason, I didn't
that's true.
expect it to be so lonely, right? Or make you feel so
Yeah.
lonely. And I've lost out on like a ton of friends. So I've been very regular with therapy, I will say, and that's helped me a ton because it brings, I think, some certainty in business, which is so uncertain at all times. So I have a grounding place that I can, go into and speak about things within, without thinking like this will be used against me.
Mhm.
Because I have done that, or I've confided in people within business, and it's not turned out well for me all the time. So I think it's important to have something external outside of that whole realm or industry that you're in. And as much as I want to say my friends are always there for me, they don't understand, right? They always don't understand. So I think also the team that we have, they're pretty understanding, they're pretty open, and they're also vocal about how they feel at times. So they're
Yeah.
pretty used to me like cribbing about some stuff sometimes, but we have an open space, so we all do it. But I think they've been really like well or good at holding down the fort when I'm, trying to take a day off or when I'm trying to be away. So having that sense of relief that, even if I can't work for a day, if I need a mental health day, I know the company is not going to stop running. There are going to be people who will take care of it at the end of the day. That gives me a lot of solace. And
So
again, yeah,
true.
therapy. My therapist has heard about it all, unfortunately for me and unfortunately for her. So yeah, that's helped me a ton.
Think it's the therapy goes like therapy has to. I think I don't know
Yeah,
why people don't understand the magic it sort of
Yeah,
performs on you, man.
absolutely.
I think but I think you just find that anchor, like you said, that Vismaya found that in friends and Gauri with your team. It's so important to build that sort of a team that's also allowing you to become a better leader every
Mhm.
day, with constant feedback, with constant support, all of that. Um, so yeah, Sarah, how does your support system look like?
Um, so, as Vismaya said, what you feel sort of transcends into your team. So, for me, one transition from being an employee to being a boss is that I can't be vulnerable in front of
Mm.
anybody. And that has now, like, that has become a part of me in terms of even when I'm going out with my peer group. And now suddenly I don't want to be as vulnerable, as I'll always put up a more confident front, because that's how you want to be a viewed and to the society, and b you want your team to view you and feel also, because they
Mm.
also need that support system from you. You are their support system. So for me, I have like three very important people in my life, which is my mom, my brother, and my boyfriend. Like these three people are the only people that see my vulnerable side, see me just like sometimes I'm just bawling for no reason. I'm just crying and I'm like, and if someone else comes and sees, they will be like, who is this person? Because you sort of built this like fort around yourself and you only allow like two or three people. But if it wasn't for those two, three people, I would have been all alone in that fort. So I'm really grateful for them.
Simul,
And
can I
like you
make an observation here? Sorry, I cut you off. But it's funny how I think in a service industry, you can still allow yourself to be a little more vulnerable. But I don't think Sarah has that.
yeah,
She can take that liberty, right? Because
that's so true.
especially when you're on the floor and you are amidst men who have historically only seen men in the position that she holds,
Yeah,
they don't want to see you vulnerable.
yeah. They
They
don't want to see me
absolutely don't.
cry.
Yeah, yeah,
They
because
won't take you
vulnerability is
seriously.
seen as a weakness, right? And it's
Yes,
unfortunate.
absolutely.
But I feel like somehow, I think thanks to voices like you, Symbol, like we are able to, in our industry at least, use that as the biggest strength. Being vocal, being vulnerable, being authentically like saying things that you do want to say and saying things that you're feeling inside. I think that's seen as a strength. And I'm glad that things are sort of shifting in at least this industry, in the small
Yeah.
slice of LinkedIn profiles that we see at least, though it's
Yeah.
not like a huge, large scale impact yet, as much as we'd
Totally.
like to believe. So it's that small slice, at least, which is waking up and saying, look, this is not your life. And you
That's
have
so
to,
true. When Sarah said this, I also immediately thought of that it's so difficult it must be so difficult for her to, because she has to work with the karigars, the
yes,
entire team, and for all of them to see, for her to constantly reiterate that I am the boss.
yeah.
It's so
yeah.
so important. Just quickly want you all to just say one line, that you think you want to just take away the the people watching this before we say our buys?
Okay. Um, okay, in my personal opinion, I believe that women can have it all. It's just that everybody's metric for success is very different. And unless and until you have clarity in terms of what your metric for success is, as a person who is a homemaker or a mother, as a businesswoman, everything looks very different. Set realistic goals for yourself, and you should be able to have it all. You may not have it all at the same time because who celebrates their birthdays, anniversaries, and everything at the same time, right? It's great that they are staggered, and
Yeah.
we'll have to learn how to be patient with ourselves. But I believe that we can have it all. So yeah, that's my
That's
message.
lovely. That's cheers to that. Cheers to that, Bismayo. What about you girls? Anything you want to take say to people, is like a takeaway?
Yeah, I think I'd say like don't take yourself too seriously. In the beginning, that's what I did. It's like that's all my life was about, and it's not. It's a part of your life. You'll figure it out.
Yes. Okay, so Gauri was saying, don't take anyone seriously.
Yeah.
Sorry, not anyone seriously. Don't
Yourself.
take
Take yourself.
yourself seriously. I don't take anyone seriously. Maybe that's where it's coming from. But but yeah, okay, that's lovely. Sarah, what about you?
So for me, I think there's just one thing and one sentence that I stick by, and it's nowhere to go but up. And every time I feel like I'm going down, I'm like, it's fine, nowhere to go but up.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's so true. And I also had this thing with my friend that I used to say to each other, we could feel sad. We would say that sadness, tell sadness to come back tomorrow. And we keep saying this to ourselves that, not today. Just don't have
Not
time
today.
for you today. Come back tomorrow. And I think these are these small things that you say to yourself, and they just hold so much personal weightage in terms of what you
Yeah.
bring to the table. And I think it's been so fun talking to all of you, and I'm so sad that I just did it for 1.5 hours because it's almost over, and I just didn't want it to get cut off. So I was kind of like hurrying up this bit which I really wanted to focus more on, but that's okay. um Thank you so much for taking this time out and this lovely conversation, understanding different industries, what you guys face. And I just wanted to say that I'm so proud of each one of you for doing all that you do. And and just being how amazingly you kind of fight through it all and make it work. So thank you so much for doing that, and thank you so much. I hope that people who listen to this and watch this kind of understand that they can also do it. And I think that's why we need to represent more women and women business women out there. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you for
recognizing
doing
us
this.
as well. Yeah, and this was great. It was so nice to like just speak to people and understand that you're not alone. And I think
Yes.
that this
So true.
video should go out there for other female entrepreneurs to know
Exactly.
that they're not alone.
So
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
so true. There's Here's
Absolutely.
for collaboration, here's for community, and here's for constantly cheering each other on.